Going really well, and so far so good for the Cubs. I know it's a weird series to try and get anything from because the Rockies are putrid and the weather was really bad. What do you take away from it?
Yeah, I'm not taking much away as far as statistics and things like that, but I feel more and more, the more I watch this team, the more I feel comfortable in the prediction that the offense is going to be really good. I felt that way coming in. I like the group that they've put together. I know there's a feeling that there's like this, they lack a superstar. I think by the end of the season, we're not going to feel that way after we watch what Seiya Suzuki's kind of becoming. But also, there's just a lot to like about this offense right now. Everyone hits the ball hard. None of them chase. They don't strike out. They don't. They take a ton of walks. They're, like I said, the contact, the quality of contact is just really impressive. I've been impressed. I know it's the Rockies, so I don't want to go crazy with that, but I really like this offense, and I thought they took really good at bats against the Rangers. They were one bad Alzolay slider away from taking 2 of 3 from them, and I think we'd be kind of looking at this team slightly differently if they were 5-1 with a series win against the Rangers.
There's a lot. They're just tough outs. We always talk about how OBP is life. And with a 380 OBP, obviously it's not sustainable. But if you expect them to finish the year as a top 5 on base team, or even a top 8 with this walk rate, this strikeout rate, it just sets up real nicely. How did it happen? How did it seem like flipping a switch here on some of these guys?
Yeah, I think some of it is, Seiya just took a while to really get comfortable and find himself. That there was that weird stretch in July last year where he just looked like, is this guy lost? Is this guy never going to find it? Is he a bust type thing? I remember coming on the show and we were talking about how awful the swings were. Remember that? Like,
yep.
It wasn't like it was like, oh, he's just in a slump. It was like, what is wrong with this guy? And yeah, I think that, I don't know if that was confidence, mechanics. There's a lot of things there that could have just clicked, but he figured something out, and I think it kind of works from him, right? Like the lineup with him being this star quality bat, it kind of makes everything click. And I don't want to criticize David Ross too much here because Craig Counsell is just an exceptional manager. He has this lineup in the right order. And he's willing to be aggressive with it, whether it's lefties or righties. He has a deeper bench than he did before. Garrett Cooper's a nice bench piece for when you're facing a lefty. I think they're gonna be even better when Patrick Wisdom comes back because I think he's a good bench piece. I know people get frustrated by how hot and cold he gets. Perfect guy to just have on your bench and use in the right matchups. We saw it at the end of last season. When used right, he's a quality player. You can't have, 13 superstar position players. That's just not how it works. You need a few guys who fill roles. And I just like the way this lineup has been built. I think Counsell puts them in a position to succeed. It's 6 games. I don't want to go crazy with it, but I've been feeling this way since the offseason kind of wrapped up. And once Bellinger was back, it felt like this was going to be the strength. So when you lose Justin Steele, it hurts, right? It obviously that's not how you want to start the season, but right away it's like, okay, offense needs to carry the load here. You're going to have some days where things don't go well pitching wise. The offense needs to step up. When they tied that game up and then right away the Cubs come back and take the lead, that's one of those things where the team has to completely exhale, right? It's like, are we going to blow this game? They have to be thinking that, and then all of a sudden, right away, offense scores. I know they didn't slug the ball around to get that run to cap it off, but it's just what, like you said before, they're constantly putting pressure on the pitcher.
What did you think of the Imanaga start?
Yeah, impressive. Again, Rockies trying to reel myself in, but I liked I know they were high on him. That's the thing. They've been really high on Imanaga. When they signed him, I talked to a few people in that front office. They're one of the higher groups in baseball when it comes to Imanaga. They really believe he has like number 2 upside. So for him to do that in his debut with Steele down, I think he's going to have to step up. He goes Sunday against the Dodgers. Hey, great test. You're going to be tested almost immediately. We'll see what the weather is like at Wrigley. I think I want to see if he can, just give close to a quality start. But there are going to be times where, the Rockies did hit some balls hard. The wind knocked some stuff down. He's going to have like one of these 3, 4, 5 homer games, right? That's going to happen. But I think he's going to strike a ton of dudes out. I think he's going to have a solid ERA. His success kind of changes how you can look at this rotation when healthy.
I have to say I laughed out loud at that Morel error because, you had the lead. I know it cost him a run, but that's pretty special of being able to somehow take a routine hopper and make yourself off balance, to put yourself in a position to make a weird angle off balance throw for no apparent reason.
Yeah, and I know, Dan, I've heard you're strongly against this.
I am. Come on.
I get where you're coming from. I'm more on Lawrence's side here, where you got to try and figure it out. And I understand these games matter. I think the payoff could be huge. I think the payoff is worth the risk. I know it looks ugly now, but there are so many times I've seen young, raw players. We can go back 20 years, whatever it is, to Ramos Ramirez. Ramos Ramirez looked awful at third base for a while. He turned himself into an average third baseman. I don't know if that's going to happen. Every game that I watch, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. I do think it's worth it. I don't know how much the weather hurt Morel there with that ball.
It doesn't make his feet weird.
No, yeah, he needs to get better, and it's just I talked to a few people about this, both with the Cubs and without and not with the Cubs. A lot of them agree that he can do this. It is going to take time, and it is going to look very ugly at times. Okay. As it works out. But I'm not saying it definitely will work out. None of them said like, it'll definitely work out. They're all like, but they see that it can. They're like, listen, we've coached a lot of infielders. Some of them look this ugly and then turn into pretty good defensive players. It's just, I think the mistakes were made years ago, probably like a year and a half ago, the offseason after. When did he kind of break out? 2022, right? That offseason should have been spent. All he should have done was spent time in Arizona playing in instructional games. I know a major league player doesn't play in instructional games, but just do it. Just do something like that. Do something off the wall where he's just playing third base every day, and you get real game action, because that's all that matters. Because that's one of those things where you don't need major league action, right? Mm-hmm. Learning to play defense, like so much of player development, it's like, well, it's the major leagues. It's different. Not with defense. You need to learn how to read the ball. You need to learn how to move your feet. This needs to become second nature. I understand some of the reasoning why things didn't happen, but ultimately I think they're going to look back and say, we probably slowed this down. And if it doesn't work out, maybe we didn't do this right by waiting so long.
How's his reaction been to all of this?
Christopher's really level-headed. He's, He always has a smile on his face. He doesn't seem to be overreacting to the negative. It bothers him. He's not happy, but I don't see him pouting in any way. I don't see him getting frustrated. I think he had the error yesterday was followed by almost the same play, right? And he made it. I was watching it unfold, and I was like, this is a good sign to see if he's in his head, right? Like, is he going to get in his head here and compound the mistake with another one? And he got the out that time. I think he's handling it as best he can. I don't think he has a good group of coaches and teammates around him that are willing to, kind of bear through the mistakes and trust that he can get better.
One thing we have to understand, too, with Craig Counsell is his approach to a pitching staff in each game and each series. And I don't know exactly what increments he uses to divide the season when it comes not just to who's on the major league roster, but who could be called up from AAA, and the number, which is it 13, is it 20, whatever it is. But there was Luke Little, throwing 97 miles an hour and throwing some darts in one inning, and he was done. And here's Ben Brown. Do you know what the exact thinking was behind last night's plan?
Yeah, I think it was Little, lefty, two lefties at the top of batting first and third for the Rockies. They are not a team that changes with who is on the mound. They're going to keep a pretty consistent lineup. And I think Counsell, I almost said Ross, Counsell just looked at it and said, okay, if I can limit Brown facing the top of the order at least one period of time, great. And, it worked perfectly. I knew Little pitched the night before. That was 12 pitches. Counsell admitted maybe things would have gone differently if he had more than 12 pitches. Ben Brown, I know there was some confusion. Why did he pitch Saturday if you need a guy Wednesday? This was he didn't want to have him sit for 10 days before pitching again. There's all these little things that go into it. When someone gets injured, it's not going to be ideal every 5 days. And I think we really need to get used to what we think is traditional or normal for pitching and throw that out the window. Going every 5 days, all that stuff, forget about it. This isn't the 80s and 90s, especially with Counsell in charge. We just need to accept that we're going to see some things that, at first blush is wait, why is he doing that? And then realize, wait, this guy has a very good reason for why he's doing everything. Everything that he does, there is a lot of logic behind it if you sit down and talk to him and ask him to explain it.
I want to go back to something that you said earlier, and that's about lineup construction. And, we talk with Ian Happ once a week, and it's fun to talk to him about hitting. And there's always consternation. And it seems like with the Cubs over the last 8-9 years, the idea of, well, who's going to hit leadoff? And leadoff is very different than the other spots in the lineup. Counsell is somehow Jedi mind trick that it doesn't have to be. You could just go up there and, I don't know, hit. And the thing is about Ian is that he is the prototype with approach to hitting leadoff, but it doesn't seem like that's something that Counsell is automatically saying. He's just everyone just go hit, and I'll figure out how this is going to work.
Yeah, I think he doesn't want people to overthink where they're hitting in the lineup. So many of these guys come with their preconceived notions. Seiya is one of them. Seiya, I think in Japan preferred to hit cleanup or fifth or something like that. Comfortability matters. It does, but it's not all that matters. And if a guy just can't handle hitting somewhere, I'm sure Counsell will adjust. But what's best for the team is for Seiya to hit second, for Ian to hit first. How about Nico Horner? Looks like a different player right now with the way he's hitting so far. I know the hits aren't coming, but the approach, it looks very different to me. I'm curious to see if this is just 6 games or how his approach has evolved, because when he's at the top of the lineup, he kind of works there too with the walks he's taking. So, I don't think Craig Counsell is some magician here. I know a lot of people thought this lineup was poorly constructed last year. I still think the biggest issue last year was the number 2 hole, not the leadoff spot. I just didn't understand why, when Bellinger was the best hitter, why he wouldn't bat second. Now Seiya is the best hitter, bat him second. I think that's what you do. It makes sense. Get the guy, whatever Counsell is saying to these guys. They're admitting that they talk to him, and he's very upfront and just straightforward with what he says. So I don't think he's massaging it as much as just kind of saying this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm thinking, and making sure they're fine with it and going forward. But it's working.
Sahadev, thanks as always for your time and insight.